Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'm bringing y'all some team deathmatch gameplay. This is Apex Legends Season 16, and TDM has been added into the game. I think it's a good game mode. I think it needs some tweaks, but I think overall it's great for the game. Something I would change is maybe make a little bit more of a bandit penalty, because it does suck when either you're doing really well or the other team is doing really well, and either all of the other team or all of your team leaves. That's kind of what happens this game, even though it's a close game. Some of my teammates leave, and my Pathfinder, as you can see right there, the one that's about to die on screen here, he like DCs somewhere like in the early stages of the match. So we actually, and I'm going to spoil it, we actually end up winning this game with 3 people. Now I die a lot in the beginning. I'm not cutting those deaths out, you're going to see them. But I eventually get my shit together and end up having a really good game. At one point I go on like a 7 or an 8 kill streak, and I think I break 5,000 damage this game, if I remember right. This was a fun game, and it felt really good to win, because as a team of 3 we beat a team of 5. So I was pretty proud of that. And there's another crypto on the team, on the enemy team, so I always feel good beating a fellow cryptomain. That makes me feel proud. But today I want to tell y'all a story. As some of you may know, I was in the Marine Corps. I was only in for 4 years. I just did 1 enlistment and I got on out of there. And it was some of the worst and best experiences of my life being in the Marine Corps. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. No regrets. It was a great thing for me. It changed my life completely. My life was going nowhere fast. But the Marine Corps did a lot for me. I would recommend it to anyone that is interested. But this story, since I've never really talked about being in the Marine Corps in any of these videos or story time videos, I would just I figure I'd start at the beginning. And the beginning for me was one of the scariest moments of my life, and it wasn't even at boot camp. It was getting to boot camp. That was absolutely terrifying for me. And so, let me get into that. When I was 17 years old, I graduated high school, and I had early enlisted in the Marine Corps the year before. So once you turn 17, even if you haven't graduated high school, as long as you are further along than 11th grade, you can early enlist. So in the summer between my junior and senior year, if I could talk, junior and senior years, I went and talked to a recruiter and early enlisted. And that's based on the contingency that you graduate high school. You still have to graduate and get your diploma. And then immediately after that, you can go ahead and go to boot camp and go ahead and start your military service. And that works for all branches. That's not just a Marine Corps thing. And so that's what I did. So about I think it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks after I graduated high school, I left for Marine Corps boot camp. As a 17-year-old kid, I was still just 17. I didn't turn 18 until I was in boot camp. And how the Marine Corps works is there's 2 cities that offer basic training. The first one is Paris Island, South Carolina, that's on the East Coast, and the other one is San Diego, California, which is of course on the West Coast. How the Marine Corps recruiting works is if you are west of the Mississippi, you go to San Diego. If you are east of the Mississippi River, you go to Paris Island. So, me being from Ohio, I should have gone to Paris Island. However, there was someone that I was associated with that was a Marine veteran that had been trained in San Diego, and so I got to put in a request with my recruiter, a special request, since I knew someone that had been a Marine that was trained on the West Coast, to go to San Diego. It's the same training regiment. Literally the only difference is just the location. It's the same amount of time, you do the same amount of stuff. So the Marine Corps didn't really see that as a big deal. They were just happy I was coming in. And so they honored that request, and they sent me to San Diego, California for my boot camp. Now how you get to boot camp is a little bit of a doozy, at least when you're someone in my situation. Normally you just get on a plane and go. Well, you report to a MEPS center, and then you get on a plane and fly to your boot camp. Well, since I was a special case, and I was an Ohio guy going to California, My travel was a lot different. And for starters, when you are traveling to boot camp, you don't have a cell phone. You don't have money. The only things you might have are like family photo, maybe like one family photo, and maybe like a Bible. And then you have this big file that you're carrying that you have to turn into boot camp once you get there. And you get a $20 meal voucher from your recruiter to get something, to get some food in the airport, because you don't have any money. You're not allowed to take any cash. You're not allowed to take a debit card. And you're not allowed to take a cell phone. That's all considered a quote-unquote contraband at boot camp. And so, I didn't have any of those things. However, for me, my travel got all weird because I had to go from Ohio to California. So when I got to the Columbus airport with the 20 other kids that were going to boot camp, all like 19 other dudes and girls that were there were all going to Parris Island. I was the only person going to San Diego because that never happens. You know, east-west of the Mississippi. I was east of the Mississippi, but I was going to the West Coast. Weird situation, but it was what it was. So once I got to the airport, my 19 friends that were all going with me, they all traveled together. They had the same flights, they had the same layovers, they had the same everything. They were all right together, they all went to Parris Island. Me, I was by myself. And if you've ever flown across the country, you know there's almost always a change to your flight. Whether it be a delay or a cancellation or whatever, it almost always happens every time I've flown a long distance. Something like that's always happened. And guess what? This time was no different. And so what happened was I was supposed to fly from Columbus, Ohio to San Diego. I was supposed to fly directly there. I found my gate. I was nervous as shit because I was a 17-year-old kid who didn't have their phone, didn't have cash, didn't have anything, and I was flying across the country to go be treated like garbage for 13 weeks, right, at boot camp. So I was nervous as hell. Like, I had just finished high school 3 weeks before this. And so I'm already scared. Now I'm traveling alone. That means I'm more scared. And now my flight's canceled. That means I'm panicking. And so, in my mind, I'm a bit of an anxiety guy. In my mind, I'm already thinking, holy shit, I'm going to be late to boot camp. They're going to kill me. Right? They're going to murder me when I get there. And so, I didn't have a cell phone. So what they give you when you're traveling to boot camp is you have a little emergency number in case situations like this happen. However, it's not really a 24/7 number. If it's 3 a.m., those people aren't really going to answer. And so once I found out I found out that my flight was canceled and then I got rebooked on a new flight, I wasn't able to call these folks until I got to San Francisco. Now I'm going from Ohio to San Francisco, and then from San Francisco to San Diego the next morning, the morning after I'm supposed to report to boot camp. And so once I got to San Francisco, I had to call these people, and I'm running around the San Francisco airport at like 3 in the morning. Can't find a phone anywhere. The San Francisco airport is humongous, so I'm panicking. I can't find a phone. I finally run all the way across the airport, and I finally find a phone. I start calling this number, no answer. I call it, I call it, I call it, I call it. I called it like 15 times. Finally, I got a lady to answer at like 3:30 in the morning, and she just guided me. She told me to go ahead and stay at the USO. A USO is a part of the airport where military members can go. It's kind of like a little club for traveling military members. They can go in there and sleep and get free food. It's really nice. She directed me to go there. Well, I go to the USO to check in, and the lady won't let me in because I don't have military ID, because you don't get that until you go to boot camp. And I hadn't been to boot camp, but I was technically in the military, but I didn't have any ID or anything to actually say I was, other than this contract that I had with me. So me and this lady at the USO at like 4 in the morning at this point are going through all these papers, and she finally says, okay, I believe you, come on in here, grab a chair. And I go in, I get to the USO finally in San Francisco, not even where I'm supposed to be. My flight leaves in about 3 hours to go to San Diego. So I got a couple hours of horrible sleep because I was terrified. You know, thousands of miles from home on the other side of the country as a kid. You know, trying to get to Marine Corps boot camp, which isn't really where you want to go. It's not like I was trying to get to Hawaii or somewhere for a nice vacation. I'm trying to get to boot camp so I could be treated like garbage for the next 3 months and earn the title of Marine. And so it was a hassle. I finally, that next morning, got on a plane to San Diego. a nervous wreck from the night before. I made it to boot camp a day late, which was actually okay. There was a bunch of people that had happened to. I guess they have problems with that all the time. You know, who'd have thought, people flying all over the country to get to boot camp. And so I ended up with a platoon of guys that arrived a day late. We all got there one day late, and we still made it through boot camp. We all made it through. I made it through, and it ended up being a great time. No regrets, as I said earlier, but holy shit, was that first night scary as hell, man. Scary as hell. If you guys like these story time videos, let me know. Maybe I could tell more Marine Corps stories. I hope you all have a great day. Take it easy.